I'm Spencer.
And
Texting. And we're here to talk about video game crashes.
yeah.
Mainly one, but you know.
Yeah, mainly one.
One is the focal point.
And the speculation of another.
Yeah. Mainly, we're going to be kind of discussing the crash of '83 with video games, but we're also going to look into how it kind of affects the future.
Isn't that so, like, official? They called it the crash of '83.
Right.
Making magic.
It's like the Great Depression, but like much nerdier.
Yeah, right. Do you remember the crash of '83?
I don't. To be fair, I don't think either of us were alive for this.
No, yeah, we weren't. I
Yeah.
was definitely
It's just a
pre-dead.
pretty
Before birth, it's pre-death.
interesting. I never thought of it that way. It's very dark. But it should be noted that a lot of it is, as Justin was explaining to me, very speculative.
Yeah, it's our opinions on it.
It'd be like looking at history from 30 years ago. We don't necessarily know. Oh, the Earth.
The Earth.
The Earth.
PH. So, yeah. So a lot of it's just...
I guess the first question is, what did video games even look like in 1980?
Fucking basic.
Yeah.
Minimalistic was like the key word there.
Yeah.
But also, so was lasting value. Get a game that's like what, roughly $60 to $80, because there wasn't a real preset price. Like a lot of games are sold at different prices
So gaming was very, very new at the time.
and expensive.
and outrageously expensive.
Like fucking nuts.
Arcades were kind of going strong.
Can we use this window, by the way?
Yeah, we can
To pull up the actual or one of these to pull up the stuff on it, because yeah, arcade gaming was in its relative infancy.
It was much bigger at the time than especially it is now, which is now it's like pretty much a non-entity.
Yeah, the industry was worth like what, $3 billion, I believe.
Something in that range. But they were absolutely huge. Arcades were way bigger. People didn't bring consoles home until a little bit after arcades really hit. And when a little game called Pac-Man was created, I don't know if you're familiar with that game.
Never heard of it.
It's apparently Pac-Man is actually the most recognizable video game character of all time. Beats Mario out somehow.
That's weird. And they're all in Super Smash Brothers.
Get
The
it now.
demo is available now.
Yeah.
Japanese, if you want to import.
So at the time,
Good luck with the connection.
at the time, they really wanted to put Pac-Man into people's homes. So they had the creator or some programmer making Pac-Man. They asked him to make it, and he did, but he only made a prototype. He built them a prototype of the game Pac-Man and gave it to, I think it was Atari at the time.
Yeah, Atari was the
Yeah.
they were
They
were all of what we have now. So they were the Microsoft, the Sony, and the Nintendo.
Right.
Back then.
So he made it and he gave it to Atari. He said, "This is the prototype for what Pac-Man should be. When do you want the real game?" Well, turns out they wanted the real game then, and they released the prototype of Pac-Man.
And it was shit.
It was absolutely terrible, and that kind of cemented the future. It's kind of foreboding. But there were other games that were made. Yar's Revenge. That would be on the good side of things. There were Forever Yar's Revenge, though. There were probably 5 games that were. You want to say E.T.? Are we going to bring up that one?
We can. I mean, it makes more sense.
Right. Which
one do you want up? This one's pretty informative if you want to jump back to it.
Mhm.
But this is just the Wikipedia. They just state the basics.
So I guess we can talk about, before we really get into the gameplay of things, what about the console market itself? What do you...
And here's my main gripe about it, and I'll touch on this again when we talk about, the future. But the biggest reason why there was even, I wouldn't say it came down to the games, it was the consoles themselves. There were too many consoles out. That was the main thing. And there was no, ESRB wasn't out. There was no...
Do you remember when ESRB started?
91, was it?
From what game?
Mortal Kombat.
You're so good.
91 or 95. Wait, Mortal Kombat was 95, wasn't it?
And I don't know the exact year.
Yeah.
I just know it was from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I think 2.
It was Mortal. No, the first one.
Was it the first Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat?
because ripping people's heads off. I'm like, you know.
Right.
But,
From
yeah.
the Super Nintendo, I think, is the one that.
Was that one?
That was the
uncensored?
one that got censored.
Wait, that was the one that got censored. Yeah, it was the Sega one that was uncensored, which I had. Your boy had. Oh, we were up in there, dude. I was like, whip his head off, bro. It was great. It's like Scorpion, burn him. But, anyway, it was the consoles that did it. A lot of people, like I've seen Boogie 2988's video where he's like, "Oh, it's these video games and it's the consumer's job." It's flat out because of the consoles, and there was little to no body overseeing it, going like, "Oh, well, shit, like this is bad." No one knew how to market a game at all. So a lot of it was still in its experimental stages, and Atari was the fastest growing company, so they're like, fucking release more games. Well, the thing is people could have released games that were similar, like you get those blue cartridge games for like Nintendo and stuff like that. That's how games like that were made, because it was the same source code. They just switched around a bunch of things, re-released it for their own profit, and there were no games that were like really protected by that. So that's, in my opinion, what I thought led to it.
Well, we got a list here of all the consoles. There was an Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Bally Astrocade, ColecoVision, Coleco Gemini, the Emerson Arcadia 2001, Fairchild Channel F, Magnavox Odyssey 2, Mattel and Television. I guess they just took a break from making toys.
Yeah.
The Vectrex. So point being, and we're getting this off of Wikipedia.
Yeah, this is Wikipedia.
So we're
Which
reading
is
it.
fine.
There were probably more, but the point is, there were lots and lots of consoles, which I will say this could have been a good thing.
Could have, if they were like spaced out and there was a clear difference between them and all that stuff. We've never heard of the Bally Astrocade. Like, the fuck?
Right.
What was that? Everyone's heard the ColecoVision and some form of the Atari.
So there's a rule in business that competition creates
Content, creativity.
right, forces people to get creative, forces people to go out of their comfort zone. It forces people to make a better product. So by that rule, this should have been fantastic.
Yeah, because it's like, oh shit, they just dropped their shit. Fuck, damn.
Yeah, we got to beat Atari, so we got to do something better than Atari. Well, for whatever reason, which we'll kind of keep talking about, that didn't exactly happen. All these, and I blame one thing on why none of these actually succeeded.
What?
You know what that is?
Huh.
The PC.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because the PC was just coming out and being, or not just coming out. PC's been out for like what?
No, it
More
was
than, like-
kind of just coming out.
Well, no, like an actual PC. Well, no, not a PC. An actual computer has been an establishment since like I believe the 1930s.
Right.
Like fucking underground
but,
shit.
But the home computer where somebody could buy it for their home,
Yeah.
which cost a little bit more than one of these consoles, but
it lasted longer.
it lasted longer. It had the ability to pretty much play anything that they would play.
Yeah.
And you could actually use it for other things.
It's an all-in-one.
Right.
It's like, why would I get the fucking Bally Astrocade if I know?
You're
you know?
a big Astrocade fan.
No, it's just the most obscure fucking one. You even had trouble saying. You're like the Bally Astrocade.
I've never heard of that before.
It might be the Bailey Astrocade for all we fucking know. It might be an Astrocade with a little accent on the top for all we know.
Right. So anyway, so the PC comes out,
Kicks everybody's ass.
pretty much plays all the games that those can play, and then does much more. It'd be like if somebody released a PC today that had a drive for the PS3 on it. It'd be like, why would you ever buy?
Yeah.
Or a PS4, I guess.
Fuck. Well, I mean, Blu-ray drive. I mean,
Right. Well, why would you? But why would you buy it? You know. It's just it.
you wouldn't.
It just completely ruined the experience for everybody.
Why buy it?
So that's one reason that this crash happened.
It's one.
Let's look at a different side of it. Let's look at the software side.
Okay.
Obviously, and we kind of talked about this on our show today, but reviews weren't really a big thing at the time.
Yeah,
we didn't have anybody that was like the end all be all opinion on video games.
Yeah, nothing was standardized either.
Yeah. What's a good game? Nobody knows at the time.
E.T.
I think Pac-Man was out there. Like, does every game have to be Pac-Man?
Yeah, right. like everyone was trying to capitalize. A lot of games, like, you know, and a good example of this is if you look back at like AVGN when he does like reviews of like specific games and stuff like that. A lot of them are the same, and he points that shit out. They'll use properties from other games in their own game, and it's like
some are blatant ripoffs.
yeah, blatant ripoffs, LGN. But it's just like a lot of those fucking like games are reused, and then. That was like nothing was standardized then. There was no way of telling what a good game was. There were magazines that reviewed games, but literally, like a majority of those magazines, what are you going to say about them? What can you say about them?
Yeah, I mean, what do you have to compare them to? What are you going to
around in circles and kill the same guys over and over?
Oh, and by the way, you got to buy the magazine.
And it's a 3-page spread.
You have to go out and you have to buy a magazine. Yeah. Granted, I would be of the caliber, I don't know if caliber is the right word, of the type that would actually buy a magazine because I love that kind of stuff. Yeah. But not everybody's going to be like me. People aren't going to want to waste money on a magazine. People aren't going to want to make the effort to go out and buy a magazine.
Because at the end of the day, it's an investment in something you don't know. The magazine itself is an investment in something you don't know.
Right.
Much less the game.
So because publicity for video games was so confused, and so I don't want to say it wasn't existent because it was existent, but it was so unregulated and so just odd.
They didn't get it right in the 2000s.
Yeah, they didn't.
Remember the Zelda rap? The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad.
I happen to love it, and it made me buy it. No, I'm just kidding.
Mom!
Come on, look at that. I gotta get that.
I want to be that rad kid.
Yeah, I want to be rad. So basically because of all this, you get the software that you get, and the software that you get could be as good as Yar's Revenge, as I mentioned, which is still considered to be a good game, or it goes on the other scale of E.T. Extraterrestrial. Some fun facts on E.T. It was made in 6 weeks.
Oh God!
And when I say made, I mean it was marketed in that time frame
as well.
All of that was done in 6 weeks because they wanted it to make sure it would hit the stride that the movie was hitting.
And that's the funny thing. If you look at games nowadays, they release shitty movie tie-in games to coincide with the release of the movie.
Right.
I'm happy there isn't a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Game. Yeah. No, the movie's great.
But yeah, we're glad that they didn't rush a product and put it out there, and it was just terrible. Which they've gotten a lot better at. I'm just gonna say they still do it, but they've gotten a lot better at that.
I think the Spider-Man 2 game was probably one of the best movie tie-in games. But I mean, minus that, like that's over the course of a ton of fucking games and movies.
Yeah, they've gotten.
Thor.
If you really compare the movie to video game transition from that time, and maybe even NES, Super Nintendo era, they've gotten better about making them actually playable,
ever so slightly,
and all that kind of stuff.
They totally have.
I also wanted to bring up a game. I don't know if you're familiar, called Custer's Revenge.
Oh God. Yeah, I know Custer's.
Here's another problem. There's no, and we kind of touched on this earlier, there's no ESRB. There's no regulation on any of these games.
No video game police.
You get a game.
Did those remind you of Custer's Revenge or something?
No, I was actually looking at it recently, just showing a friend who'd never heard of it or seen it before.
Okay.
Yeah. Custer's Revenge is a game where all you have to do is go from left to right, and you're dodging arrows. But the famous part about it is your penis is sticking out.
And you're naked.
You're naked.
Just in case you're wondering, it's out of the pee hole.
Yeah, and if you get all the way across, you end up having sex with an Indian woman. Yeah. Native American. Sorry. It's the feather, not the dot. But you end up having sex with a Native American woman. And this was not considered disgusting or anything, I guess, to the world. I mean, clearly it was, but it's to the people that made it, there wasn't a rule that said they couldn't do that.
There was, speaking of AVGN, he had a video about like adult Atari games, and another one was like cum blasters or something like that.
Really?
Where you're some like chick who's at the bottom of this street. And these dudes are on top of this building, and they're just shooting loads out. You have to catch all the loads. What the fuck?
So, in some aspects, the market at the time is a bunch of kids making games they think is funny,
Yeah.
and putting it out to everybody so that they can decide to buy that if they want it. They can buy cum blasters.
And who knows? They're probably making a profit.
Well, we'll get to that because no.
Because fuck no.
Because 1983 happened.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny part is that the people, so people like you and me that were actually buying games, we probably saw this as a golden age for video games.
Back then, yeah, like looking back, oh, I remember the time.
Because suddenly a game that was worth according to all these companies $60 to $80 suddenly dropped to like $10.
$5.
$5. So great, I can pick up cum blasters for $5. This is fantastic.
Sweet.
Well, here's the other side of it is that
cheaper than Playboy.
cum blasters. The thing is, these companies could not sell anything, and hence the crash.
Yeah, because their what's it called was put into question. The what's the word? Quality.
Quality.
Because there was no quality control.
No quality control for any of these games. People suddenly decided, hey, I think the video game market is stupid. So
let's get rid of it.
So all of a sudden you have a huge crash, and we don't have a video game market anymore.
At all.
At all.
And then it's like, what the shit? Now, what saved the video market, or video game market, we all know.
Nintendo.
Nintendo. Thank you.
Who was a card company when they first started. They made playing cards back in the late 1800s or very, very early 1900s.
Yeah, they were fucking for a minute. Not fucking for a minute. For a minute, they've been around.
Yeah.
Longer than Microsoft, longer than Sony.
Yeah, they've been around for forever.
Grand old man.
Did some toys, I'm sure, threw in there. And then they had a guy named Shigeru Miyamoto. Miyamoto. I can't pronounce any of these Japanese names. Miyamoto comes in and he's got some ideas of his own. And he eventually Mario comes around. Zelda comes around. Has a little rap battle. And the market is essentially saved.
Fuck that fucking commercial. It's the Legend of Zelda. It's really... That was like fucking... No.
Well, you're missing out if you don't like that
I
song.
like the Japanese commercial better than I like the American commercial. The dancing fucking...
What about, by the way, you know, Paul Rudd was in one of those commercials.
Oh, God.
A young Paul Rudd was actually in a Nintendo commercial. But I guess what we're trying to get at the end of this is, what does this kind of give us in terms of perspective for the current generation of gamer?
Well, there's this concept right now that there's a second coming, as it were, for a video game crash due to the quality of games as of late. A lot of games. There was a picture I saw that really summed it up. It was a picture of first-person shooters from the beginning of 2000 to 2000, or it was like 2001 to 2011, 10 years, and it showed the same scene. One was Killzone, one was Call of Duty, one was another game. I think it was like Medal of Honor, and then one was a more current shooter.
Titanfall or something. Oh, Titanfall wasn't 2011.
Yeah, I forgot. It was like, I think it was 4 or it was 3 games, and they showed it. And all it was ADS, aim down sights of a rifle. And that's all it was. And that's absolutely true. It's literally, that's what the game, that's what sold for a very long time, was that, you know, aim down sights, just shoot the guy, whatever, which was made popular, which was introduced in other games, just made popular more so in the Call of Duty series than it was anywhere else, and then a lot of people jumped on board. It's the same thing with Resident Evil. QuickTime events were made in Shenmue, but really hit their stride Resident Evil 4, for instance. Over-the-shoulder camera, they invented that specific camera angle.
Yeah.
It really hit its stride in Resident Evil, and then other games, Gears of War, copied it and stuff like that and put their own twist on it. All of those things, all those are factors. But when it comes to games right now, the biggest thing, and again, this is going back to like Boogie 2988 and a couple other guys that I actually watched who are like maybe like 6,000 views or whatever. um, talked about, you know, the gaming industry crash, and even Adam Sessler talked about it. I think they're all wrong. In my personal opinion, I don't think there's a gaming crash right now. I think it's just the era that we live in. Something that Adam Sessler did say that I thought was interesting. The era that you live in tends to define, it was according to a theory, the era that you live in tends to define your way of thinking. Right now, we're in this like huge, like the government's against this era, where we're like, oh, hey, propaganda is everywhere. Don't trust anything, yada, yada, yada. So we think because we're in a recession that, or so is gaming. Gaming is going to be that way too. Because if they keep releasing crap, we're not going to buy it. Well, that's wrong. People are still going to buy crap. They bought Custer's Revenge, didn't they? Okay, and that shit was worth way more and offered way less for a console that was more expensive than anything we offer now.
Well, I
if
mean,
you count in inflation.
If I mean, look at Madden. It gets released.
Let's look at it.
It gets released every year. It's little changes. I mean, it's debatable how much the game changes. Assassin's Creed. People are buying it.
Assassin's Creed's good though. I respect Assassin's Creed because it is a new story. Yeah, it kind of went down in the pits in some areas, but I'm still going to get Assassin's Creed Unity.
But yeah, it's all subjective. I mean, or objective. If you want to get it, then go get it. These games sell. A video game crash implies nobody's buying anything. Well, apparently, we have like the video games are the highest media seller that there is. They beat the movie industry.
Yeah, beat the movie industry by.
So is the movie industry going through a crash?
Yeah,
debatable.
If they have bad movies, but then you get stuff like random hits out of the park, like Guardians of the Galaxy and all that shit. It's a cycle is what it is. Mm-hmm. Right now we're in a slump. We're not in a crash, and I don't think there's ever going to be a crash because there's too many factors now that we didn't have back then.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question for you is why aren't we going to have a crash? Because we could, but why won't we?
The biggest problem, there are two main problems with the video game crash of 83. One, there were too many consoles out. And two, there were too many games that no one could tell if they were good or bad. Here's the thing. This kind of ties back into our other video about gaming journalism. I don't think it exists. I don't know what your opinion is on it. But I think it's stupid. So when someone reviews a game, I don't take their opinion. I look at reviews more so just to be like, you really thought that? Or, whatever. I make my own opinion about a game if I play it. If it's interesting to me, I'll play it. It doesn't matter what it is. God Hand got a 4 out of 10 on IGN, and it's my fourth favorite game of all time. Yeah, so what? Last of Us is my number one, and it's like fucking won all these awards and shit. Who fucking cares, right? But still, it doesn't matter. My top 3 games are highly rated games. So Metal Gear Solid 3, I cried. I won't lie. And then Dark Souls, because I was so pumped. I was like ready to go. The marketing was great. I got a new band out of it and shit. It was like fucking, how could you not like this? It's well-deserved game, well-received and all that stuff. But my number 4th was God Hand, which is a game that has tons of stereotypes, is an incredibly hard game, terrible voice acting, awful, or really good, or really complicated controls, but when you get them down, feel great, satisfying even. And I encourage you to watch a speed run of God Hand if you've played it and see how these guys play. That's playing how you're supposed to be playing, and they're fucking good. But it's subjective, true, but every review is going to be subjective. That's why if you look at a movie, it's like, 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, whatever. The reason why is because we have too many elements of quality control. If you don't want to watch a game journalist look up or do a review on something, you have like Reddit games, for instance, like r/games. Mm-hmm. You can go in there and you can look at what another person thought of it, just a random Joe. You have YouTube streamers or whatever who I actually found out, Machinima did a video about it, and while I'm not really on Machinima's side either, they kind of cite their sources if it's a news thing, so I respect that. They cited that the video, as far as what the consumers think about who's the more influential about, or developers, what developers think about who's the most influential with really making a video game sell, the YouTubers were higher than journalists.
Really?
Yeah, journalists
That's
was at the
interesting.
bottom. The top one was like Steam sales and like sales off and like sales, essentially sales. It's like if Xbox Live goes, oh, all Capcom games are on sale for this price, they think that gets them the best revenue. But YouTubers were higher than journalists, which was at like 12%. YouTubers were like 22 or 23, and Steam sales was like at 30, and then there was like another one. I forgot. I think it was like word of mouth or some shit. But all of those were higher than journalists, which is absolutely true. Just because someone says a game is bad and tries to rate it on a scale out of 5, 10, 100, 40, Famitsu, anybody, it doesn't mean the game sucks. We just did a thing on Destiny, for instance. But the thing is there's so many qualities or levels of quality control within the gaming industry. Besides the internet, before the game even comes out, there are people that tested to see, hey, is this game fun? Early access, stuff like that. To be like, hey, is this game something I want to do? That helps solidify customers for the developers. So there's too many factors in that regard. Regarding consoles, we only technically have 4 consoles, and then we have small deviations in the portable series. That's it. We have PC, freaking Xbox One. I'm talking about like current generation. I don't mean like previous generation. Of course, we have the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 and
Right,
the Wii.
but more companies.
Yeah,
You got four
we're
companies.
we're thinking more company wise. So, yeah, you have had talk about the Steam box, and then I think Amazon was doing their shit and whatnot. The stuff didn't really come to fruition. At the end of the day, maybe Steam Box is still coming out. But the thing is those guys have to understand, whoever creates another console who tries to get into it, like if Apple's like, hey, we're creating a console, which I would laugh.
I will say that they are the one company that could do it right now.
I don't know.
They could.
But I mean, yeah, they're pretty big. They could get into it, but they would literally have to partner with someone who gives them something that no one else gives them. So they'd have to be like go to Steam or something.
EA. I guarantee you, EA would
would
give
jump on
them
it.
free console. They wouldn't go exclusive, but they would give them their own content.
Distributive rights. For
Yeah.
like do some.
EA's been sucking Apple's dick for like a long.
They're the best.
Yeah, well,
Our story last week talked about like EA fucking. Wow,
Yeah.
they're so up to date.
But I think kind of what you're getting at is that there's an actual community now. Whereas
Community
in
and safeguards,
in
okay.
1983, there wasn't a community that kind of said like what was good and helped you kind of on your way. And I think one thing that you didn't mention, that what I get from reviews isn't necessarily a score.
Mm-hmm.
I get what they say about the game.
Yeah.
I more listen to the words than them going 5 out of 10. They'll say the environment was drab. Well, I'll look up videos, and if I think you're wrong, then I'll go, okay, screw that. They'll say the gameplay was too slow. Well, I'll look up a video of it. If I don't think it's too slow, maybe it's too slow for that guy, but maybe
Of
it's
course, you wouldn't think it's too slow.
Right,
I'm
I'm-
all about turn-based.
yeah. You mean like there's not steps?
You're like, that's blindingly fast.
Yeah. Halo. Halo is too fast for me.
Shit.
But
And I think it's too slow.
right,
Yeah.
but I can see how fast it goes. There's no just it's a box on a shelf and I'm just wasting money if I don't like it. I can see if it's too slow.
Exactly.
And I can figure it out myself. And if they say on the flip side, they can explain some of the complicated parts of it. So they can say, in Destiny, you get to level 20 and then you have light levels after it based on your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I can decide if I like that or not.
Yeah.
It's reasons like this that there's not going to be a way that you don't trust a game. I mean, a game can be worse than you thought it would be, but you know what you're buying these days. There's no excuse for you to say like, I didn't know that Destiny was only going to have a level cap of 20 and then light levels. I thought it'd be up to 50. Well,
They say that.
all the information is out there. There's no not knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
There's an ESRB, so parents can't blame games for destroying their youth.
Yeah, they are. I don't know if you've been to ESRB's like website. They're pretty like descriptive,
Yeah,
and they even put in spoilers in that bitch. So
as